Today is Friday, the 28th of August. We're almost to the end of August, right? Happy astrocatting, right? Hey, Shane here at daily-astrocat.com. And today is Friday, and the moon is winding up in Pisces. Okay, for another long void of course, if you can believe that. The moon is void of course at 12:14 p.m., and she won't enter Aries until 10:36 in the evening on Saturday night. So these focused void of course moons have felt very heavy, and this is no exception. Now, let's talk about this. Emotionally, it seems like we're all over the place. I'm writing this at the peak of the eclipse. The red moon we see here on the East Coast is closing chapters for many. Okay, for me, it is restoring the balance to the Virgo-Pisces axis. Honestly, that nodal axis that we've been talking about for the last 19 months, the separation, think about it, the separation of church and state, blurred purposely, right? Purposefully blurred. Reason and logic weren't enough to really prevent this, because this was the energy that the South Node was releasing, that logic and reason, and that this is not a great idea. All right, now the pendulum is going to begin to swing back, right? Now, really annoying technological changes, they're continuing, and it's just been awful, right? We have both the Sun and Mercury perfecting squares with Uranus today. So that will give you some indication of where those tech problems are. Uranus as the co-ruler of Aquarius, big technology, being in the small technology sign of Gemini, right? Very surprising, very abrupt, and very just kind of all over the place. Now, we need to be innovative about when we're thinking about these things too, because there are some innovations that need to be considered, pondered, addressed, maybe, but this is not the time to do it, right? The weekend is going to be good for socializing with family, so think about that. And look, surprising, now think about it. Some of those changes can have a surprising backlash that we haven't even seen coming yet. New actions today, they're not really going to go anywhere because we've got that void of course moon starting at 12:14. Okay, so today our keyword is ringing, and our color is midnight blue. The moon is rather short-circuiting our Virgo work ethic with all the void of course things. In other words, we've been void of course so often, we really haven't been able to get into a groove, right? But I told you that was going to feel off anyway because of the way this week is feeling and how it just feels out of sync with the holiday cycle here in the United States. It's still going to feel out of sync, and next week's going to feel even more so because it should be a short week, and it's not a short week unless you make it a short week by taking Friday, which you could in turn do, right? Now, that's if you're working. Now, if you're not working and you're just, jamming or doing your things, right, or going back to school maybe, yes, that might be a thing, you're going to find that that's going to be true too, but you may have Friday off because they tend to do that. So, buses are going to be out there. Take more time in the morning to allot yourself more time because you're going to encounter school buses and stuff like that. We haven't done that as of yet. Starting to see them creeping out there, but they're going to be there's going to be a ton of them next week if you're in an area that hasn't already started school. So that's what we do up here in the northern hemisphere, right? That's correct. Now, think about this. We're driving ourselves crazy by trying to be everything we think that everyone needs us to be. That's called overthinking. That's called really just trying to over everything, right? How about we allow ourselves to step into what we are becoming instead? Okay? This becomes not a physical issue, but one of attunement and alignment. The poet and the artist can begin to awaken once more as we strengthen the mind-body connection and begin to address our inner divinity through outward expression of artistic works. Now, create boldly and work sparingly, especially this weekend, right? Especially today. Connecting with home and family will put us on a good track when the next week begins. Okay, overthinking, that's still a thing, especially with both Mercury and the Sun in Virgo. Okay, Give it up. Restore the balance somewhere in there, right? Venus is in Libra. We can try to use some of that, right? Try to appeal to people with some balance, not with trying to go to extremes and being like, you don't want to do that. Look, there are some practical steps that we can begin taking, but first you got to pick a course of action. Honestly, that is it, and you got to stick to it. It has to become an obsession if we're to make it the most of it. If we are to make the most of the sun's stay in Virgo. Okay, that was a little bit awkward coming out, but honestly, if you treat it like an obsession, you'll be able to do it. The best way to achieve this is to give into your inner guidance. What is it you're going to focus on? What will you find? When will you find? Let me ask you a question. When do you find yourself in a flow state? What are you doing? What is it that you're working on, or how you're working towards? Or what is it that you're doing? I find it quite often every day when I'm writing this, right? But what about you? Tell me below, right? What is it? When do you experience the flow state? Okay, and what are you doing? And that should be some kind of clue as to what you need to be headed towards. And anything that's not that needs to start being gently discarded, right? Now, what is it that you're going to try and change? Think about that. What is it that you're going to try and change up? You have 2 weeks here, right now, with this, after this full moon. The moon's going to wax, the moon's going to wane, right? And wax is the opposite. The waning moon is going to wind down to the new moon. That new moon will be in Virgo. So we have 2 weeks to really wind this down and to all the high-strung activity, right? And begin sowing your winter wheat. Remember, we've been talking about the ant and the grasshopper. The winter wheat gets sown in August, right? Now, if you're not happy with the communication you are receiving, maybe it's time that you switch that up too, okay? 3D, 5D, all these things that we can start working on, right? Our work lives, our career lives, our professional lives, and our artistic lives, our inner lives, our side hustles, and things like that. These are things that all can be that we're going to be able to start to address very, very soon. But it's going to start with creativity and art, okay? In 1879, William Herschel discovers Saturn's moon Enceladus. Enceladus, by the way, was a giant. Supposedly in the war against giants with the gods of Olympus, Athena struck him down and buried him under Sicily and Mount Etna. So, buried under a volcano. Kind of sounds Dr. Evil-y, right? In a volcano. Yes, anyway. So, 1789, William Herschel discovered that, and our birth is in 1908. It is one Roger Torrey Peterson. He's an American ornithologist and writer. He did the Peterson Field Guides to Birds, right? Painter and all that stuff. How to Know Your Birds. Born in Jamestown, New York, and he died in 1996. And that is all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed that eclipse. I hope you found something to really give up and just to try to get yourself kind of on that habit of, shedding some of those bad habits that we had talked about. If you have to, go back and listen to that yesterday's edition, the long version, and make sure you're paying attention because you never know what you're going to get out of it, right? I appreciate and love every single one of you. Thank you so much. Been getting some great feedback, great traction the last couple of days, so really appreciate that. Keep it coming. Let's recap, shall we? Our color is midnight blue, and our keyword is ringing, because I have ringing in my ears for some reason, and it's just not leaving. Today is a 4. Happy astrocatting.